Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings dear ones, I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. You are facing a beautiful, beautiful energy and don't know it. In order to get from dark to light, there are transitions. And the transitional thing you would know from learning anywhere on the planet is that the transition can be difficult. Especially when you go from a darker energy to a lighter one. There are those who will fight to the death in order to keep light away. It's a way of life. It's a way of control. And it's the only way they have ever known or seen. But dear ones, after the transition, a transition that will take only as long as you say it will, free choice on the planet will determine the time of the transition. You're in it. You've just begun it. But there'll come a time, literally, when you can say, the sun has come out. Light has won. And it won't be that the entire planet is enlightened at all. Instead, what you're going to have, and we've spoken of this before, is a planet which thinks differently. A paradigm of existence that's more based on the logic of what an old soul would know and not on what television will tell you. It is a new paradigm based upon the concepts of a changing human nature. And it's going to look a lot different. What would the practical life of an old soul look for a day? What would it look like for a day? How would it be different than what you do now, just for a day? So I want to give you a short example. We often use the character woe. Woe is not a man or a woman. In this story, it can be either. We're going to call woe a he, but he really is a woe-man. And so it's the story of the practical life of an old soul in a time that is not yet here, yet to be determined, but a new paradigm. From the moment he gets up to when he goes to sleep, just a few things I'll reveal. It has to start, dear ones, with you understanding that this individual, this human, this old soul in the future has a completely different paradigm of existence than you have today. It's a paradigm that is literally one that changes the relationship he has to everything. Everything. The relationship to God, the relationship to you, to earth. And so it's going to be a tough call for you to understand everything I'm going to give you. But I want you to listen to the story just for a moment. And as I tell it, every once in a while I'll say, stop. And then I will reveal an old energy comparison to the new energy that we see coming. A night and day revelation in the things that woe faces as he goes about life. The paradigm shift, his existence, is this. He was born into a civilization, this old soul in the future, that has long past thinking that all of their help comes from the outside. They're not a civilization that thinks that they are unworthy or hobbled in the sight of God. They do not feel that they're going to have to then call on a greater source in order to accomplish everyday life solutions. So right there, the paradigm of his existence has changed, because woe knows what the civilization now believes, is that all things spiritual and beautiful, immense, are carried inside the human being. God inside, a message from the masters that are ancient, is now being applied practically to everyday life. And so there isn't a scamper to find help that there is today with you, with an older kind of energy in a civilization that is still thinking that all good things emanate from something that is not human. So I want you to think about that for a moment, because that's how woe approaches his day. Stop. Do you really think that this will ever occur? That humanity would ever get to a place to be convinced that they did not have to get help from an outside source? It seems to be a stretch of the imagination until you think of this. What does evolution of consciousness mean to you? It's not something that's going to be put upon humanity. It's something that they're going to see for themselves. It's going to be logical. It's going to make sense. Through an evolved consciousness, they will start to understand what the masters meant, start practicing what the masters said, until they come to a conclusion that all of this time, the most sacred things that they ever would worship or believe are inside every single human being. Made in his image means made in the image of love. And in that they would realize that the image of the masters have always been inside. And this is where we start the story. Woe awakens like he does every morning about to go to work. He puts both feet on the floor. And he then expects good things. This is the first thing he does. He pushes the consciousness of benevolence through his day, right at the beginning. The thought that he would have is, this is a good day. And I'm going to have a consciousness that will surpass any challenge I have today. Good things are before me. Stop. How many humans do that? In an old energy, let me give you the popular way. You put your feet on the floor and you're about to get up and you say, oh, here it is again. I hope things go better than they did yesterday. I had all these things. They're still on my mind. I didn't get a very good sleep. I don't know what's going to happen to me today. I hope I survive. Are you seeing a difference? The biggest difference is the expectation of benevolence, a wisdom that would say this day is controllable by me. That is a practical consideration. First thing he does, feet on the floor. He celebrates the fact that he is going to get through any problems that come. Now, do you see an enlightenment in him that it means everything is perfect? Everything in the planet is perfect. It's a rosy planet where nothing goes wrong. This is an artificial idea that many humans have when they think about a planet that is starting to graduate, as though you would all think alike, the same identical thing. It will not be that. Dear ones, you have free choice. You have unique akashas. You'll have different ideas and opinions. You'll still have a form of politics. Sorry. So what woe is saying as his feet hits the floor is it doesn't matter. He's going to get through them all. And he expects to. Now, what is he doing? He is creating, through his consciousness, something physical. A bubble, you might say, that goes before him wherever he goes to help him understand what he's seeing, work with it, graduate through it, and have a benevolent outcome. Is it too much to think that a human would start the day that way? Woe gets in his car after he has brushed his teeth and doing all the things that he had to do, just like you. Car may look a little different, but he gets in it to go to work. On his way to work, he sees something that might actually change his life forever, if he let it. There has been some kind of an accident with the vehicles. And on the curb there is a crying woman, a mother. And he can see the ambulances loading in the still bodies of her children. Grief that surpasses anything. The day starts out well, and in the middle of the day, or even in the beginning, her children are gone. Could there be any greater horror story for any mother? Woe is overcome. You see, in this new earth, in this practical day, compassion is the king. And woe sees it, and suddenly there's more than just empathy. He feels everything she feels. He stops his car, and he's weeping at the steering wheel. He gets a hold of himself and starts a process that he knows about, that he has done many times before, where he starts to visualize this woman in future years of her life, recovering, understanding, surviving, having peace over this event in ways that perhaps are unsustainable in today's psychological world. He sees her recovering in so great a manner that he can visualize her laughing. And that visualization then he sends directly to the curb where she is in that moment of her horror and grief, knowing that he has just practiced something called compassionate action. Stop. Today, if this happened, there would be those who are compassionate. It would wound them forever. They would never forget the sight. It would affect the child inside, their joy factor. In today's civilization, there are so many things like this. There are so many horrors like this that continue daily. And if a human finds out about it, they empathize to the degree that it ruins their life. All they can think about is how unjust it is and how they can change it. And they will weep daily for what is happening somewhere else. And in the process, dear ones, they haven't helped anybody. And in the process, they have pulled themselves down into a lower energy of empathy, worry, fear. All because the compassion got the best of them. For woe, he wouldn't let that happen because he knows that this can happen. And so one of the attributes in this new energy that we are revealing, the practical nature of an everyday life of a person, is to see situations that often would take you to that place and immediately correct and send actions in compassion, because consciousness can change things. Much like today, you would pray for a person. He's doing more than that. He is projecting joy in the future, understanding and recovery for that woman for this day. He starts his car and continues. He stops his weeping and instead he starts smiling because he can see it actually happening in his mind. There'll come a day when she'll laugh again. There'll come a day when she'll recover. Not today, not tomorrow, not next month, not next year. But a time when all of these things will be all right in a way that she can understand. And he participates in that humanness of her even though she's remaining on the curb. He gets to work, having a nice day, indeed, doing his work, and he's called into the office. And what happens next is not specific. I will generalize it, and it can be one of many scenarios, all of which you'll recognize. Whoa, you're late again. Well, there's been a problem over here with one of your clients. Well, you're going to have to work on the weekend because this didn't work out well. Well, we're not going to promote you this time, just like last time. Woe this, woe that. Well, we're considering eliminating your position. Woe leaves the office, and for a moment, just for a moment, he is flooded with an old energy called worry and fear. What would he do without this job? How would he tell his wife what has just happened? What does it mean to him? Is it as simple as having to work overtime that he didn't plan? Or is it more than that? And in an instant, he reframes everything that happened. And he realizes this is the beginning of a shift, of a change that will be benevolent, but he doesn't know how, and he doesn't know why, and he doesn't know the timing. And he starts to smile. Because it is the beginning of a shift that will be as he knows it will be. Good for woe. Benevolent for woe. Stop. What do humans do next, usually? If it were today, worry the whole day, worry the whole night, worry the next month. Tell all your friends so they can worry also with you. This is called drama. And whatever happens, happens, but the drama continues and it continues. It also builds a bridge of darkness between the employer and woe. What's going to be next? What can happen? They don't appreciate me. I'm not worthy. None of those things were on woe's mind. But he had to convert it in about 4 seconds from an old energy to a thought which was way above the consciousness of today, where you'd actually flip into a scenario that says, maybe I don't belong here. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe something is going to happen that is beautiful. I can hardly wait. I'll do as I'm told. I'll work the overtime. I'll even accept a pink slip because there's something better coming. It wasn't a half an hour later that he heard the cheering going on. One of his friends in one of the other cubicles in his office had been promoted to one of the positions he wanted. He wandered over to be part of the celebration. And he was. And he meant it. He was so pleased that a friend of his was succeeding. So pleased that that friend got a raise. So pleased. Stop. Do I have to say it? In an older energy, there is so much of self. So much of projection. Why not me? What did he have that I didn't have? He took my job. I don't like him anymore. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to go home and eat worms. Anything to be depressed. This is awful. First I get an idea that I may not be employed anymore, and then I get somebody else who got my job. But that's not what happened, you see. Because woe already knew this or something better. A benevolence is coming. He didn't know when. He didn't know how. But here in front of him was a human being who got something wonderful. It would change the human being's lifestyle. He knew that the human being would go and tell their family, and they would have a beautiful dinner, and they would sing. What a good time this is to celebrate the joy of a neighbor. Is this even possible? Oh, yeah. The practical life of an old soul at work, just like yours, if you go to work. Or mother, if you carry the burden of children and grandchildren, caring for them and all the things that happen around it. There's all these kinds of scenarios that'll take place. It was time for Woe to go home. Woe, like so many humans everywhere, a lot on his mind, and there was some kind of intuitive thought that said, "You're forgetting something." But he couldn't quite put his finger on it, as you say. He drove home. Now, Woe's home was beautiful. Beautiful family, thought much like he did. But there were a few things that Woe knew that had to be a certain way. His wife was a wonderful cook, and dinner was served at a certain time. He had to be there. No being late. He made the mistake early in the marriage of being late, and he only did it one time. She deserved him to be there to enjoy what she had prepared and worked on for at least an hour and a half or two before he got there. The family would be waiting. Woe was on time, just like always, about to pull into the house, and then his intuition gave him the message. Woe, this is your anniversary. Immediately, there is the decision. Do I run to the flower shop, get the flowers, get the card, and come back and be late for dinner? Which is better? Being late for dinner or not having the flowers? Which would then indicate, I forgot. His intuition served him well, and let me show you. He made a quick stop, not to the flower shop, but to the stall he remembered was on the corner, not too far away. Lots of flowers, lots of good ones, higher prices, but lots of good ones. They even had little stickers like cards. Of course, they were electronic, but that's then and that was now. Purchased the flowers. Came back as fast as he could, but it took 15 minutes. Now he was 15 minutes late. He didn't know what would happen, but at least he had the flowers. He could walk in and say, "Happy anniversary, honey. Sorry I'm late." And he did. But something else happened. You see, when he walked into the door, all of his friends were there. It was a happy anniversary party, you see, and he had the flowers right there. Dinner wasn't late because there was no dinner. There was a party. He was not in trouble, but he would have been without the flowers, if you get the point. What happened? Stop. Woe paused for a moment and listened to the intuition. A higher part of him which knew beyond what he knew, what was going on in the house, what the reactions would be, what was the best thing to do with information he did not have, and he listened, and he trusted, and he went there to get the flowers. An older energy, dear ones, would have the human being clueless, making a 50% chance of right or wrong decision. Not understanding that there is a higher innate part of yourself that knows so much more than you. That there is the higher self above you who knew there was a party in the room. Listening to the intuition was common. Woe used it every day as a staple, who to call, how to say the things he had to say to the clients he needed to talk to. It was his way of life, and Woe knew it worked. He had done it yet again. The party was over. His wife said, "Thank you so much for those flowers. Didn't we have a great time?" Of course, Woe didn't say, "Well, there's another story." He just said, "Of course, I love you." Woe was about to go to sleep. His feet were on the floor. And before he lifted them into bed, he said, "Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Creator. Thank all the cells of my body for youthing. Thank you for the disease that was chased away today because I didn't get into worry and fear and drama. Thanks to the inner child that I can smile now. I am not worried about my job. You see, this or something better. Good night, sweetheart. That's real. All of it. That's what's happened on planets you don't know about. That is the potential for you to think so far above anything that's going on in your life now that the reactions are so different. That defines enlightenment. The age of compassion is coming. It will rewrite and reframe all that humans think about and react to. And I just gave you a snapshot. Not something out of the purview of reality at all, but something instead belongs to you and is your lineage because you passed the marker. And you will say, wow, I'd like to be there to see it. You will. All of you. All of you. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner steps aside, and all that he is remains as a human. The best kinds of channeling that require human language must come through the human. There are all manner of kinds of channeling. As we've told you before, there's the art, the music, the sculpture, and more. But instructions and language comes through humans. It has to. It has to. And that is in honor of humanity. It is in honor of the way the process works, the God inside. Instructions from a human means more to you than you know. If it came from a rock or a tree, it would be miraculous a tendency then to worship the rock or the tree. Someone would object. They'd move the rock and cut the tree down. When it comes through a human, there would be those who might disagree. But then there would be those who would discern and know. Because the human has a built-in attribute, God inside. So it's less of a stretch of the imagination to think, perhaps, that the human being could reach out and bring in the divinity. Tonight, I want you to feel it. The discernment that you would have is important to us. We want you to know it's real. If you have a situation where a human says they are channeling, you take notes and go home and behave differently. That is not what we're asking for. We want it to resound in you as beautiful and truthful. We want you to know that this particular message is one that would never hurt you or ask you to do anything inappropriate, would love you as a mother and a father loves their offspring. We are not parents to you. We are family. But we are loving family, and the benevolence of the messages should be clear. There is great honor with your courage. You move from an old to a new energy, and within that there is so much promise. For the very paradigm of humanism, cellular structure, consciousness, has such a potential for improvement. And the part that makes us so pleased is that now we can start teaching you something very, very special, how you are changing. The human race is about to shift into a wiser kind of energy. But wisdom takes many forms. It is not necessarily just in your consciousness. Let me present something that we broached last night in a smaller meeting, and that we have been talking all around for many years. Your body, your cellular structure, even that which you would call your intellect, your thinking, all of that is somewhat restricted. It's restricted by the fact that the body engine, which you would call DNA, is only working at about 1/3 of the efficiency that it's possible to work at. The body engine is designed in a way that you would have vastly longer lifespans than you currently do. The DNA that you have, the intellect which you could have, the connection to the other side of the veil, which you could have, depends upon an efficiency that is greater than you have. And that is what you are broaching. You are moving into a greater efficiency. Don't look at numbers, that you would have a certain percentage here or there. We give you these things to make it clear to you. But when you deal with multidimensional energies, you cannot use linear terms. The evolution of the human being, all of you, not just old souls, is going to target itself in the efficiency of your DNA. The old souls will be the first ones to see it and use it. That means you, as the teachers, will then teach it to the others who are not able to see it and use it as easily as you are. Therefore, the old souls, not an elite group, are simply the older group. The ones who have a greater understanding and wisdom now on what to do with it. You can see it. The younger ones, and I speak now of younger souls, the ones on the planet who have not had the lifetime experience you have, the younger souls will see that you have something that they don't. Some of them will reject you because of that, and others will want to have what you have. More and more will see the older souls, the wisdom, the improvements, and want them. Eventually, your task will be to bring them online with what you know. Dear ones, I want to weep with that statement alone. Finally, a world where civilization begins to grow up, where there becomes a demarcation with the elders based upon the number of lifetimes you live instead of the years that you've been on the earth. Old soul elders can be 20 years old. And there will be those at their feet because you see their wisdom, not the wrinkles on their face. Where the discernment will come from a whole different place in your brain than it does now, and you will know who they are. So some will be elders on the planet, some will be young people on the planet, and there will be no generation gap between them when they have a simultaneous, synchronized wisdom. One of the things that I want to tell you about tonight that is such a difference in the evolution of humanity will be what is going to happen with your bodies. I want to review with you for a moment what a body is like operating at approximately a third of its potential. In your life right now, so many things are what we would say an issue within you. It's almost like your body does things to you. It doesn't. It does things apart from you because you do not have a bridge between your conscious thought and your cellular structure's actions. In the physical, you'll catch diseases. You won't know about it. There'll be all manner of things that you fight all your life called health. What is good for you? What is not good for you? Are you eating things that have been genetically altered? What will that do? How will it affect you? All of those things will correct themselves, dear ones, with a body that starts to evolve so that it knows consciously and cellularly what's going on. You will have discernment of food. You'll walk into the store, you'll feel its vibration and reject it or accept it. Do you have any idea what this will do to the manufacturer's sales? When human beings simply stop buying things because their intuition says don't buy them, that will have an effect, a very 3D effect. This ripples all the way through the manufacturing energy, attributes, plans. Just imagine. That's human evolution. What about the other things we have told you about that are inefficient in your body? You cannot control them or affect them. You just have to deal with them. That is going to start to change. We have told you that your intuition is going to sharpen. You will start to see the connections between brain, heart, and intuitive sense. You'll start realizing the system of the body is so much larger than science has told you. This is not the fault of science. Science does its best to give you the best it can in knowledge of how things work biologically. Doctors and nurses, trained in the very best that they know. But dear ones, what I'm telling you is that they don't know what they don't know, and it's not their fault. As human beings begin to advance and develop, the things that they will have first is the wisdom that you would continue to really conceive as consciousness change, ascension processing. I want to get ready for you to understand the cells of the body are going to start changing. Last night we told you about cellular awareness. It is all part of this. But there's one big one we haven't told you about. Some of you are bothered by something you cannot control. It's beautiful, old soul, that you have an Akash that remembers. But when you have a body working at 33%, you cannot control what it gives you. And sometimes what it gives you is past life trauma. Where was the last time you were killed, and how did it affect you this time? No control. You go to sleep, you'll have dreams. Sometimes they're exceptionally disturbing. They may be recurring. You want to know where they're coming from. It's the energy from the Akash. It's the last lifetime or the one before, a short lifetime where something happened. It stays with you. It sticks with you. You can't control it. You'll go to a past life reader whose gifts are there on purpose for a reason to help humanity. And if the past life reader is one who has a gift which is accurate, they'll be able to help you to see it and dismiss it. You will then be able to rewrite what happened in the past. Some of the best healing methods of this planet, we told you a week ago, are not chemical-based. No longer. They're energy-based. And the energy we speak of mostly is the energy of knowledge, wisdom, and consciousness. When you can discover something and know something, you can correct it, you can reprogram it. This day you learned about tapping, you learned about decoding a little, you learned literally about body talk. You talk to your cellular structure, it helps you by talking back, you learn things, you heal yourselves, and on you go. Some of you are distressed because you know the truth and you can't get to it. You know about how you can change that which is in you, which you want to change, but you just can't get to it. If that's you here today, I'll tell you that's why you're here today, because I have news for you. You came at the right time, at the right place. I'll give you a promise. You are getting to it because you ask for it, because this energy will support that. Stop fighting it. Stop trying to figure it out and say an affirmation. Dear God, thank you for the connection you gave me today, for it's going to be different from now on. I'm in control. That's your evolution. The fact that you are asking for it generates an energy of solution. The very acknowledgement of the knowledge that you can do it creates an action. Body awareness. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to do it. You just have to acknowledge that it's there. Pause with me for a moment, even before I give you some news I've never given you before, and celebrate the power of the old soul, the beauty of synchronicity that would put you in a group like this to listen to a family member give you a fireside talk about the good news. No matter what is before you on the planet socially, no matter what your news says, everything starts with you. It doesn't start from the big to the little. It starts from the little to the big. One at a time, the human beings will change. The result will be grander wisdom, acceptance or non-acceptance of foods, policies, attitudes, everything. And as it starts to happen worldwide, and it will, eventually, you'll turn on the news, and it won't be what it is today. You're impatient. I tell you new energy is coming, you're turning on the news and say, I don't see it. Not understanding, you guide it by what you do today, not what your television set does. Your changes today will affect others tomorrow. That will affect others tomorrow, and another tomorrow. The planet changes slowly. Sociologists will tell you there have only been 4 changes since humanity began in what you do. That's how slow it is to them. And they study human behavior in groups. Do not take this message as saying it's going to take a long, long time. There is an acceleration of change. That's part of what your recalibration is. Back to the Akash. What have you been through? Old soul, I will tell you a truth. What have you been through? Everything. You name it, and you've been through it. Anything. Because the human experience includes so many things, especially in an old energy, where you did not have some of the comforts today you have, of health, of curing, of understanding, of knowledge, of knowing. Now, we told you in the past that human beings tend to reincarnate in what is called Akashic groups. You used to call them karmic groups. We're dismissing karmic energy. The old soul doesn't need it anymore. We'll call it Akashic groups. You tend to reincarnate in the same places and in the same families for a certain amount of time, and then you may move on. What causes you to live in a small town in Canada? Now, not all of you do, and I know who's here. I'm speaking to the locals. Why? How many of you feel you were pioneers here? Go back even further. How many of you worked the land as the ancients here? And if you were one of those, I would like to remind you something I said last night. How many children did you lose? As common things that the pioneers had. What was your reaction to it? Does it appear, old soul, in your dreams? You see, the old soul is beginning to awaken and become more sensitive, and here's the good news for you. We know about this. The body knows about this. You are broaching a multidimensional barrier of wisdom acknowledgement. The body is becoming smarter, and in the process, it's going to give you greater mental health. And the way it's going to do it is by giving you the power, not automatically, the power to choose a new word, Akashic filtering. You can control the Akash that comes to you. Now, what does it mean? If you have an inappropriate remembrance that is affecting your life, all you have to do is acknowledge it with your body and say, we do not wish to have that remembrance, for it is affecting us in this lifetime. Your body, your innate, your cellular structure, all is you. It's not another entity. Your Akash is not somewhere else, somebody else pushing a button for you. But at 30% or 33%, it feels like it, doesn't it? You can't control your dreams. You can't control the energies. Some of the habits you have are coming from your past life. Some of the things that you are reacting to today is because you have unfinished business in the past. None of that is appropriate for an old soul who is advancing in wisdom. You don't need to be bothered anymore. That's good news. Do you see what I'm saying? You have control, and the beginning of it, over your Akashic filters. Now, some of you will still have dreams, and you'll say, when can I get rid of those? That's coming from your subconscious, dear ones. That's your duality trying to get to you. That is your choice, and always has been. You have the knowledge of dark and light, and which one you choose and which one you work with doesn't have anything to do with your Akash. But there is so much that you are based upon who you were. I'm telling you, you're going to be able to clean up your act. When you get rid of the inappropriate things that are coming to you from past lives. Akashic filtering. Oh, Kryon, how do I do it? Where do I go? Where do I start? And the answer is yes. Number one, it always is, do you believe it? Number two, if you believe it, you can change it. It becomes cognized as your reality. Then you start working with it. The same way you mine your Akash, you use Akashic filtering. You start speaking to your own body as though it were a friend, because it is, working better than it ever has before, because it is, more aware, because it is, cells that are listening, because they are. Your Akash is a multidimensional part of your own DNA. Build your affirmations and say them when you want to. And the affirmations are you speaking to you. And you can just say it, Dear Akash, I now have the power through wisdom and ascension over what bothers us and what does not. Use the word us. Not you, not them. We are now going to filter our Akash. Give me the things that I need to know, and dismiss the things that I don't. Instead of a steady series of uncontrollable thoughts and feelings and energies that come at you and disturb you in ways that shape your life, you now have control. Now, just like everything else, it's new. You may not know how to work with it right away. Some of you are able, some of you are not able, because your paths are unique. There are old souls in this room who will walk out of there different and apply this instantly and have results. And there are others of you who are coming online, very old souls, but just learning the process, the feelings, the belief. And it will take longer. Don't beat yourself up if you don't get instant results. Oh, how human of you. Give it time. The wisdom of the ancients all had something in common. They looked at time differently. Didn't have any of the modern things you have today. If they wanted to communicate to a friend in another part of the country, they would write a note in their own way, and they'd get a reply in several months. What a system. And they loved it. They understood that quality takes time. This is the ancients. It's in you too. For you are your own ancients. Is it not time to not just filter your Akash, but perhaps even do something proactive? Call upon the things that you need to know that stood out because they were positive, because they saved your lives, because they gave you peace and comfort, and they were of God. This is the message for this evening. Spiritual ascension and wisdom is just beginning on the planet. The old souls get it first. They teach the others. It is the beginning. It will take some time. But this is the first time we gave you this information. Waiting for this group. Waiting for this time and this place. Think of it. Things are not always as you believe they are. We weep with joy that you've reached this point where finally we can start giving you some seeds of truth that are going to make a difference in your life. go from this place changed. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I pause a moment. My partner steps away fully. The process of channeling is one that should be practiced by the individual who is doing it, to allow for the highest clarity, so that the message will not be filtered, biased, changed. I've told my partner not to read other channeling, not to participate in other metaphysical books, so that there are no ideas implanted there that would fester, perhaps, influence, perhaps, filter, perhaps, the integrity of God. All of this so that what gets to you is as good as it can be. Tonight, I want it to be as good as it can be. The last few channelings from around the world have been filled with information. The way things work, the way things are going, advice, acknowledgement of those in front of me. This particular channeling tonight will be shorter than most. But hopefully for you, it might be the most profound you've heard. I want to give you a love story. I want to give you a love story that'll change your life forever. It goes far beyond any information we are going to give you that might wow you in its profundity, in its change, in its prophecy. I want to tell you who God is. To some, this may seem to be a review. It isn't. It's an enhancement of our relationship, human being. First, I am Kryon. This is the name for you in these years. I have had many names, all of them angelic, on many planets. I have never been in human form. I am in awe of the process. The compassion of God shows through me in the emotion of the body of my partner. I bring you information and truth. In that, I bring you tonight the truth of love for you. You are not unknown to us, to me. And through the eons that this has been part of the system, I have done this, and done this, and done this. When a civilization passes that marker which we cannot return to, the love of God starts to be increased and far more noticeable. We told you years ago, it has become a slogan that you are never alone. We have tried to enforce it and re-enhance it. We've repeated it. We've given you metaphors of it. We've told you to challenge that statement. Go into the closet. Shut the door. You're still there. We've had to do this. Because the singularity of your bias as a human being craves that which you do not feel. Company. Partnership. The embrace of someone who would love you and care for you. Perhaps a mother-father feeling. And we've had to do this because in the old energy, what kept you from feeling us was old energy. And now you begin to shift. Light worker, the biggest issue and challenge that you have is lack of self-worth. We've given you channels of it, the whys of it, the reasons for it. How bizarre it may seem that the oldest of souls on the planet are feeling unworthy. And that's about to shift. I'll give you proof. I want you to look at the children and tell me if they feel unworthy. In fact, one of the attributes of the children recently is that some say they are too worthy. They feel headstrong because they have awakened knowing they're not alone. Did you figure that out? The love that we have for you is beginning to change the template of humanity. And what I want to tell you, old soul, is that you're going to be here for a long time, and you don't have to have rebirth in order to feel what the kids are feeling. If you're willing, if you understand, if you put out your hand, metaphorically, we can change your template. And the worthiness that you have been lacking due to the Akashic record of thousands of lifetimes in an old energy will begin to change. As the self-worth changes in a human being, goes health. Did you know it was related? The better you feel about yourself and your place on the planet and in the galaxy, the taller you stand and the longer you're going to live. Because the cells in your body know it. And they listen to that which is the consciousness of you saying, I deserve to be here. I am what I didn't used to be. Confident spiritually in my place here. Looking forward to the light that is new here. Battling the old energy and winning here. That is a love affair I have with you. Spirit has with you the gift of the century. It took a long time for life to start on the planet. The love that we have was manifest literally in the physics of creation. Evolution was controlled so completely and so put off to the last moment to allow humans to grow and be the only planet of free choice at this time in the galaxy. Loved beyond measure, with souls collected from all over to start a test that was beautiful. That is love. Last night we told you of the system of reincarnation that is starting to shift and change. The actual attributes of the human soul are evolving. The human soul. I didn't say the soul. What is changing is the human part of the soul. That is, your relationship as a human to spirit is changing. It is beginning to evolve and morph into something which is complex, and we have seen it over and over. And this morphing and this complexity is going to bring you into a sweeter place where you know who you are because God loves you enough to start putting these things into the family in a way that you'd never seen before. You're going to feel this, and you're going to know we're here. There'll come a time when I never have to say, you're never alone, because you know it. And you'll go into that closet and you'll call our name because you know it. And there'll be no such thing as unworthiness of an old soul because you'll know it. This is human evolution. And the old soul is at the forefront of this. We're actually changing the system of how you operate in an esoteric way. The profundity of the Akash is starting to change. You're getting connected to things which you would never be connected to in a survival energy. Dear ones, when you're running from the Bengal tiger, we're not going to tell you the intricacies of your Akash. Does this make sense to you? There has to be a graduation, and there has been, of consciousness to a sweet place where you're beginning to ask, who am I? What do I need to know? What's next? What should I do? And the answers are going to come because you're not alone. Because you're not alone. The karmic system of the planet was only for low consciousness. Imagine a consciousness so low that when you came into the planet, you had to have an attachment of energy to push you to unfinished business. You couldn't even feel it through the Akash. There was a wall. You called it a veil. It wasn't a veil. It was a wall. Now it's a veil, and a thin one, if you want it to be. This is a love story of the creative source and the human being. You're going to wake up and discover your spiritual parents have always been with you in the form of the creative source. There'll be those who say, I want to be loved, adored, held, and you will be. Literally carried in the hands of God from one place to another as you live your life, with the angels whispering in your ear that you're loved. And so you won't worry. And you'll know there is a bigger purpose for the things that you see on the news, and you won't worry. Perhaps you can take action in consciousness, but you won't worry. There's a difference. Perhaps you'll take action in compassion when you see those who are suffering in another part of the world, and you'll know it's making a difference. That's an old soul who's not worried, but acting. Acting on it. Compassionate action changes this planet. Your reaction to the things around you, old soul, will no longer be fear. You won't see things that will push you backwards. Your whole consciousness will be to see things and have compassionate action. And the biggest decisions you'll have is what kind of compassionate action to have. There are no problems. Every time you look at these things, you will count the solutions. because that is a wise old soul. Dear human being, I'll say it again, there isn't anything you haven't seen. There isn't anything. Thousands of lifetimes as a human being. I'll say it again. You've had everything happen. The worst things you can imagine to the best. And every single one of them is there for you in your akash as a well of wisdom, knowledge, and experience to draw upon no matter what happens from here on in your life. And that creates a balanced human being who feels the love of God every moment of the day. That's the love story. And all I'm going to say to you at this point is, are you ready for it? Will you allow it? Because there is an old energy bastion of thought that will create a bubble around you that says, if I haven't seen it, it doesn't exist. And I invite you to change that idea. Get ready for things you don't know about or don't believe in. Don't restrict the love that is going to come into your life by the greatest source of love there is. Don't restrict it by what you don't think can happen. Somebody's come for a healing today. Did you hear that? Because you can walk out of this place and you can shake your head and say, well, I didn't feel anything. I don't know that that was right. What else can I try? And you missed the point. As the angels circle you, asking, are you ready for what you came for? The time for you to surrender is now. And you're not surrendering to God, you're surrendering to old energy thought in you that would keep you from magnificence. That's the best love story I can ever give you. That's it. It doesn't really get any better than that. And that's why you're here, old soul. And that's what can happen. That is the evolution of the new human being. I am Kryon in love with you. And for good reason. And so it is.